Okay, wonderful. Welcome to our Bucky call for July 12, 13, depending on which continent you're on. And we're excited to be here. Um, we're going to be discussing fuller explanation. We're on roughly on page 165. We left off there with the most intriguing thing that just means a lot to me, and maybe we'll get to talk about that today as well. And you're here. How are you feeling, and what do you anticipate getting out of today's call? And you're muted. You're muted.
I need to pass it on to somebody else first because I need to pick up something at my door.
Okay, really good.
Yes, yeah. I'll be back shortly, 2 minutes.
All right, who are you passing it on to?
Yeah, I guess well, Richard, because I want to hear what Richard also has to say. I want to hear the rest. But give me 2 minutes. Maybe I'll pass on to Lee first. Lee? Oh.
Okay, good.
Yeah, how do you feel? And what is your I'll be back. 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Thank
Okay.
you. I feel wonderful.
You have to unmute your mic.
Oh, sorry.
Good.
I feel wonderful. I have been pondering over what I did here last week, and it left me in a big puzzle. It was awful. I couldn't handle it because of my illness. So I had to give it up. And that I am hoping I can catch up today in everything that you guys talked about last week. And I'm excited about that. Manu, it's good to see you. And what do you want to find out about today?
And how do you feel?
Am I muted? No.
You're fine.
I feel good. I feel good. I'm happy to be here early this morning because I went to bed very early yesterday. Steve, you are distracted.
I do what?
You are distracted when your friend is
talking. Second, because I'm managing the call here, and we were about to get an echo in the room, and so I distracted for a minute to relieve the echo. I'm back wholeheartedly, Manu.
Okay. So I came in relatively, and I caught the word from Richard, and then it inspired me this diagram. Can you see it?
I'm pinning you to the thing, and you have your diagram, and move it down a little bit. Okay, bam, I've got it.
Can you show it?
Yes, I can. Let's see if it's going to show up enough for you to be happy. Hang on a second. There we go. There we go. All right, good. And let me share the room, and we'll see if it comes up. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, how's that?
It is not yet showing. It will take some time.
It shows now.
Does anybody see anything other than Steve?
There it is.
Okay.
I can see.
All right.
That's great.
All right. It's going to be a little bit. Okay, but that's it. I came in when Richard was talking about the triangle, and somebody put a force, and it became a structure. That's what I caught from Richard. Now, I drew this little cartoon. You see, number one, this is an ant. You see my ant in that triangular orange.
Yeah.
There is an ant in the cave. A leaf is a flat word. It is an ant. But then there's Mars. There's a green guy that is somewhere else. He lives on his own, is number 2. All of a sudden, that ant realized that, hey, there is something. Maybe he had a screen, and that the radar picks something. There's a signal coming in. That is awareness, is a feel. It is awareness. Something strange is happening here. something strange, something wrong. Na 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 na. Get started. Okay, and then it starts, like there is. Notice that there is this awareness. Is aware of something, and then bam, he realized that there is the relationship. There is a force. A relationship is a force. It could have been an impulse of something out coming and kicking him, like we talk of a meteor. It could have been just observing that the moon appears all the time cyclically. It appears at intervals. It could have been anything. Then you have consciousness. Because then, as soon as you are conscious that there is a force, that force is going to interact with the edges of the other world. It's going to interact with the little vertexes, the little sphere that constituted your world. And that is consciousness.
I see consciousness and I see gravity. What is
Yes.
the word between consciousness and gravity?
Structure.
Okay.
A structure, all of a sudden, a structure of a body to a body has appeared. Then you can define lines of forces, of force. Right? Gravity, you remember, is always defined as a vector between two bodies, the attraction, the force or attraction of two bodies. Okay, that was my little hunch. Anyway, I feel happy and I'm ready to go. Lee.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been. Richard, how do you feel? What do you expect?
Well, I feel quite good. I had a really good session this morning with our what we called World Weavers group, and we covered a whole bunch of areas. One of which had to do with this the triangulation of the indigenous peoples' treaties with the Europeans in the 1800s, and I was intrigued with talking about the two graphics that you just put up there were interesting because the triangle that was in the agreements, the treaty agreements, is the indigenous people, the, if you want, European people, and the government of Canada. And the treaty says that we're going to live in peace and goodwill with each other. And so I was saying that from my Bucky tetrahedral sort of mindset, I'm always looking for, okay, where's the fourth? And land, if you want, or the earth or Mother Nature came up for me because we're very big on land acknowledgements now, honoring we live on the lands of the original people and that sort of thing. But I realize that language is not in the treaties. And if it was put in the treaties, it would have been kind of a natural tetrahedral agreement. Um, and so that to me is really interesting in terms of how you take structure of that kind as a basic framework and plug in what kinds of terms or ideas or names that could go in to make up your tetrahedral system. So the question then became, so where is land in this diagram? And so when you have just the triangle, then the suggestion is put a dot in the middle and connect the other three. And when I do that, I always put land in the middle. And then the other diagram that you have, you showed us, was the other way you can draw it. And so then you can put, if you want, the indigenous people kind of at the top, the land at the bottom, and sort of on the vertical, and then on the horizontal you can put the indigenous people and the say European people or settler people, and so you get a different kind of image of the four. And so then if I did that, and then looked at, well, which one of those two do I want to sort of put forward in terms of this tetrahedral arrangement? And I would go back to the original triangle with the land in the middle, with kind of symbolizing that land is the center, if you want, and the rest, the people sort of are kind of living on the land in a stewardship kind of way. And the idea is to continue that relationship so that in that sense, universe is regenerated eternally, and the peoples learn to live with each other in peace and goodwill, just the way the treaty says. And now that we're into truth and reconciliation, we debated whether or not that's really what should be going on. And I suggested that at one point, rather than reconciliation, that maybe reciprocity is the correct word, of getting to work together. And then somebody else says, well, what about truth? Truth, what is truth? And they came up with a replacement to truth and said perspective. So then, and because the person that did that has had a a graphic design background and has been involved in public relations work, which he felt was actually diminishing what this public relation should be, and that very often you are being asked to not tell the truth about what you're really promoting. And so when I put perspective and reciprocity together, I had PR. And so I said, so there we are, is a new PR kind of way of encouraging us all to live together and maintain this eternal, regenerative universe. So that's a kind of a long-winded how am I feeling, but I want to get more of that out of this meeting as well, because I'm really intrigued with the importance of having an underlying framework, this minimum kind of framework that can ground almost anything. And it doesn't matter how complex it is or how sort of basic it is, that if you say you're holistic and all these sorts of things, but somebody pushes you to say, where did you get that from? Show me the evidence other than just a rhetoric of I'm holistic, whether it's spelt with an H or a W, that you should be able to go back to Fuller's understanding of the sort of geometric minimum whole system and say that's the underlying framework that everything sits on. It's common to all of us in whatever perspective we live and experience in our respective cultures or countries or experiences. So over to you, Steve. How are you? Oh, and to Anne, yes. How are you feeling, and what's your expectation today?
Yes, yeah, I'm actually very happy to be back today. Anyway, there are two things that came up straight away that I wanted to share. One of them is when you went down the path of talking about the First Nation people, right? In Canada, you had this conference going on. Well, in Malaysia, somebody approached me a number of years ago on the indigenous people in the state of Sabah, in the island of on the island of Borneo, right? So they said, okay, what can we do there that will really take care of the education there, right? Because they know that I was doing entrepreneurship. But I told them, I said, look, actually where the indigenous people are concerned is the problem is education doesn't include them, right? They are living out in their world, in the forest, and so on. But we are trying to teach them all the stuff that they don't need. You know, there's so much in our education system that they don't need. And yes, you need to teach them, but they don't need it in their daily lives because they're not going to need the economics the way we show it, or physics and chemistry and biology, which is very technical, which doesn't show up in their world, etc. Right? So and then we actually worked on I told them, I said there's a solution to it actually, you know, because when you do the traditional system, you need to anchor it with their culture and their language and their lives, right? So now that you brought this up, there is a way to, because like in our school, we're working towards a 4+1 system where 1 day is actually meant for the students to do the stuff that they are strong at, right? The whole day, including out for trips and so on and so forth, right? If it's biosphere, the whole entire day is biosphere. So you can literally do a school, whether you can do 2 days where it's all based on their indigenous lives, right? And 3 days you can teach them the stuff so that they can also function in both worlds. And so the key thing is, why would we want to, you know, okay, they have to formalize the language in order to teach it in a formal education system. But you don't need to formalize the teaching of the language. All you need to do is allow them, not allow them, but, you know, let them, not let them also, that's not the right word. They should be, just take it on their own. And if you park the language and they learn at the same time about how to use their lands, how to, you know, maybe even take some of the things from their land to sell outside and so on and so forth, you know, the entrepreneurship side. And that can be because a lot of people don't understand entrepreneurship, right? They think of it as business, but entrepreneurship is more than that. It's about people and cause rather than business itself. And the way to entrepreneurship is, there is this lady by the name of Dr. Saraswati. She did a research on 27, I think, entrepreneurs. And the main thing is that they come from the space of looking at the resources they have, and then they decide what they want to do for their life, right? Whether it's entrepreneurship, etc., or to create a business out of it, or a life out of it. And so what happens is that whereas most people are looking at the goal, which is a business to make money, and then they work towards getting the resources towards it. But when you come from the space of resources, and you can check in the word effectuation, the diagrams for it, and then you work outwards, what you do is there's no point. It's like there could be 5 directions coming out, options coming out that you don't even know about. And then when it comes and you're aware of it, you can choose and move rather than being so focused towards one. So this whole idea of entrepreneurship is really, really a lot of people don't understand that there are elements that makes it very different from pure business owners, right? So anyway, we were looking at how to help and work with the indigenous people. I did do a proposal for them, but it's going to take quite a bit for them to sell it to the people who are on the boards to make decisions, right? So, but anyway, that was pre-COVID days when we started talking about this. So that was one. When you mentioned it, I was like, wow, okay, you know, that brought that in mind. There are solutions to do that merge, yeah, rather than one or the other. The other thing is Okay, the other one you mentioned is the land, right? So next week, or again, I won't be at the meeting here because I'll be in Bali, and we're opening our school in the second Indonesian school in Bali. Our biosphere school is going to go to Bali. However, where the land comes in is when we spoke to the developer, they're very different now, the way they're making decisions. They told me they saw a lot of proposals, right? Because the land is like, this is a strategic piece, of land in one part of Bali that has a lot of greens rather than where the touristy area is, right? So they said that whatever we shared, the sister-in-law, she told us, whatever we shared, it was more memorable. The rest of the schools, they said, was pretty generic, right? Now, then when we proposed it, we were talking about the biosphere, but I said biosphere going into Indonesia, into Bali. No, because ours is about environmental issues in an urban setting, right? But this is Bali. There's this whole culture there that you cannot disregard, right? So we shared with him, we're going to do the soul of Bali. Okay, we're going to come, whatever we do about the biosphere, the environment is got to come from the soul of Bali. And initially we said the spirit of Bali, but if you key in the spirit of Bali, there's a whole chain of liquor stores all over Bali, right? So we said, no. So we decided on the soul of Bali. And the soul of Bali, the anchor of it is the land, because Balinese are very, very proud of their land, right? It's an island. But when you take care of the land, then the trees grow strong, and you take care of the waterways and everything. So the water, then after that, when the land is strong and clean, and the waters that flow to the sea, then it's clean, right? At the same time, when you take care of the nature part of it, the trees and the animals, and you take care of the air. Because Bali has got a lot of issues with waste, a lot of issues with waste. And they have enough people to be able to pick up rubbish at the beach at dawn every day. Yeah, that's the only way they can keep the beaches clean, but they do have those issues. So the school we're going in is a biosphere school, but the anchor of it is the soul of Bali, which is the land. So today just from the conversations, you guys are it's crazy. So I'm just sharing a little bit of what's going on here, and the solutions are there. In fact, there's a party that are going to be working on supporting everything that we're doing. And I mentioned Commonwealth to him, and he says, yeah, and let's talk further about it. So it's pretty, how whatever we're doing here is showing up. It's amazing how it's showing up, just because we speak about it and it goes out to the universe, and the universe answers. So I'm like, I really believe so. I believe so strongly in that. Yeah. I'm not, half the time I don't share the struggles we have over here, right? We have tons of struggles just trying to get this through to people. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to what's going to happen today, and glad to be here. And Steve, how do you feel? And what would you like to take away today?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm just totally inspired. I have thoughts from everybody's opening statements into many, many, many directions. And one of the things that hit me that I'm going to be pondering is this whole thing about relationship. And I had this big vision as I heard uh, Richard talking about Aborigines and everything, about how individuals, two people, always relate at 90 degrees. But somehow, as soon as I get into a structure where there are three people, while my individual relationship with each person is at 90 degrees, my relationship in the structure is at 60 degrees. And that just blew my mind. So now what's going on in my head is I've got this diagram where I've got this 90-degree relationship going on. And what I'm going to do, maybe if we have time, depending on who's reading, I'm going to show you this diagram with 90-degree individual relationships in a structure, so that the 90 degrees and the 60 degrees coexist, which is blowing my mind. Because I just really am convinced that when I relate to you, I'm at the square. I'm at 90 degrees. Your plane is 180 degrees. My plane is 180 degrees. As we get further off the center, everything is equally reciprocally fades from the center line. That just really is exciting. And as soon as I join in with as soon as we join in with another person, blammo, up comes 60 degrees. So that's blowing my mind. I'll be working on that. Maybe I'll have time, and maybe I won't. So that's kind of exciting. So, but the other thing that's really been I mean, I had a major epiphany last week with our conversation. Major epiphany last week. And it comes back to, I think it'll be a good preview to the topic for tonight if I show you the diagram that blew my mind last week. And I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna show you the beginning of this little diagram of the 60 and 90 degrees. Hang on here. I gotta find that guy and go there, and then find this guy and go here. And I'll share my screen so that I can go anywhere I want to go. And here's the beginning. And of course, what I'm going to do to make this to get this to work is I'm going to I'm going to have to chop off the tops of these things to show the 90-degree relationship of the two entities. So I'm going to chop this guy off, and I'm going to chop off that guy, and then I'm going to make that into a diagram, and then I'm going to take this 90-degree relationship, and I'm going to put it in 60 degrees, and we'll see if I have time to do it tonight. If I don't, I'll do it when I do it, and I'll send it out, just like I often send stuff out. Let me see. I want to set those lines at no value. And there we go. So there's my two people relating at 90 degrees. And I'm going to take that puppy and make 3 of those, and then connect them all up. And we're going to see 60 degrees and 90 degrees and see how confusing it all can be. So that's one thing. But here's the other thing that I want to share. And this was the big epiphany for me last week. Our whole concept has been the shape of space. The thing that blew me away last week was, we've often talked about how a cube, a square, will fall over. The reason why it falls over is because it's not stable. Unless I put that cross member in there, unless I put a triangle in that square or that cube is going to fall over. Why? Because gravity is going to bring it down. That's what my traditional brain says. Gravity is the villain. If I build a teepee and I start with a tetrahedron, so I take those 3 poles and I lean them in on each other, it doesn't fall over. And the reason traditionally I would say it doesn't fall over because gravity is making those poles lean on each other. I blamed it on gravity. And what happened last week was I had the epiphany that gravity is an artifact. That the reason why is just something we made up, not understanding the nature of space, because the nature of space is tetrahedral or triangular. And the reason why the tetrahedron doesn't fall over because it's consistent with the shape of space. And the reason why the cube or the square falls over is because it's not consistent with the shape of space. And therefore I can get rid of gravity. I don't need to understand gravity when I understand the shape of space. And here was the big mind blower for me. If I take any square shape or any cube shape, but stick with the square because it's easier to perceive, and I dissect that quadrant shape, that rectangular shape, the irregular The regular rectangular or the regular square. If I dissect a square, then I have squares of equal proportion. But if my beginning square is irregular in any way, and I dissect it, create a midline from the middle of this to the middle of its opposite side, and a line from the middle of this side to its opposite side. If I do that with an irregular rectangle, I will have 5 irregular rectangles of different shapes, different angles, different shapes. This is exactly what happens with the Hadron Collider. They take energy, shoot it down in through an Hadron Collider, and they run it into something, and it blows apart, and all these weird, irrational things start to occur. And they say, oh, what are all these irrational things? And they start giving them names. So we have muons and protons and all these different things because they act differently. But all they're doing is creating artifacts of the fact that they are not starting with the shape of space. Whereas when I take a triangle, any triangle, regular or irregular, and I dissect that triangle from the midline of one side to the midline of the other, and then from those two to the midline of the third side, it doesn't matter what the shape of that triangle is, I will end up with 4 triangles of exactly the same proportion. They'll be smaller, but they'll have the same angle. In other words, the shape of universe, depending on the triangle that I start with, if I break up any shaped triangle, I get fractals of that shape. Any shape, I get fractals. When I break up a piece of reality, I get 4 pieces of reality that have exactly the same self-similar shape. This is blowing my mind. This is blowing my mind. And of course, what this diagram, and I had to read this 3 times after we got off the call. If I take a tetrahedron and I shave off the base of any side of that tetrahedron. So like, let's say I cut it off right there, a piece of cheese, and I cut it off. Then I take this piece up here and I put it down here. And let's say I cut it off at a side angle. Every time I cut that tetrahedron up, what's left is a tetrahedron of the same shape, of the same relationship, the same angles as I started with. If it's an irregular tetrahedron, I have the same irregular tetrahedron. It's just smaller, having shaved off a base of it. I wish that I could create it took me a while to visualize this, but I tell you, if Amy had 3D graphics, this whole thing would be a lot more interesting. So anyway, this blew me away, and of course that's where we exactly ended up. When we quit reading, we actually read down through to. Gee, I didn't actually mark it. In fact, oh yeah, I did. It's over here. Yeah, we read down through to this section where we're going to go volume direct comparison. We read down through this whole thing. So this was a major epiphany for me. And if we want to start here, we could just talk about, if anybody recalls this, what did you get out of it? What do you see when you see these diagrams? What do you understand when you read the words relative to this figure? And if we don't have any comments on it, we'll just start reading down here with volume direct comparison. Any comments or questions on figure 10.1 and what it might mean to you? Or any questions about what I said? If there aren't any, we'll just start reading. And if you'd like, we can go back and reread the paragraph.
I have comment.
What's that? Okay. But if you guys would like, we can go back and reread this. Go ahead, Manu, make your comment.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. I will differ from, I hope I didn't understand well, from some of the things that you say. You say the shape of space is tetrahedral.
It's based on a bunch of triangles and squares because there's a cube octahedron in there.
Okay, yes. But if you're cube octahedral, then it's not tetrahedral only.
That's right. However, the
Okay.
isotropic vector matrix is tetrahedrons and octahedrons. And
Yes,
because there's
that's
an octahedron in there, there's a square in there. Because
yeah.
the
I mean, it is a basic wherever you are in 2-dimension or what, everything that you can build in whatever you call space is a combination of triangle and squares.
based on the cube octahedron.
Even before you went higher in dimension, before you folded, every point on your plane will be reached if you were an ant via triangles and squares or rectangles, right? Or rhombus. What it means is that in order to move on your plane, either you crawl straight or you turn. If I have a plane, I'm an ant here. To move on this plane, I can do this or do this. When I do this, is the equivalent of a triangle. I'm constrained. When I turn, is the equivalent of a square. So my motion is a combination of the two. Whatever dimension that you are. And the higher, we saw that in 4 dimensions at least, space is made of a combination of tetrahedra and octahedra. We give you a cube octahedron, right? One is to kind of make the shape, to rotate the space, that is the square, and the other one is to hold line of flow of energy straight. That is the triangle. Now, another thing that you say, Steve, about the angles. You see this? These 2 spheres.
Okay.
They are the red and the white. These are individual. We say that the sphere, right? We imagine we are spheres. We are vertices. We come in contact. We can only contact or in relationship, the closest relationship that we have is at the point. And the point on that surface, on this surface and on that surface, is at 90 degrees to the shape of my surface.
Sure.
Okay. That is the first thing. The second thing, when I say the 90 degree, I have defined a line of force between the center of this and the center of that. That's how I define my 90 degree. Those are, you held them like this, and you have a line. This is the way you held. You showed us like this. This is the way.
That's
This is
what I
what you
showed.
showed us.
That's
like
what I
this.
showed in my diagram, right?
Yes, you showed like this. But remember that this is just a line of force between the center of the white and the center of the red.
Sure.
Okay. That is gravity already. So, but let's do this. Let me bring a third sphere. Okay, just imagine that this is a sphere. Don't look at the other stuff. This guy here, right? This guy see these friends, red and white. He's very happy. He is brown. Tack, 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 tack. I like this couple. Boom. Right? This guy can see this guy, can relate to this guy perpendicularly, like this. He comes first to this. But in order for him to relate to that one, what do they have to do? They have to rotate. Otherwise, this guy doesn't see him, doesn't feel the relationship. Let's just say I came here, on top here. In order for me to do this guy, I have to do this. I have to rotate. If I rotate, my angle, remember that when I'm at 90 degrees with something, I don't see that thing. I'm departing. This guy is at 90 degrees to this one. It's departing. It's precessive. If I turn like this, if I decrease the angle, I start seeing this guy. Bam, 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 bam. Because I want to join them, boom, I close. That's why I wrote there, triangulation is always to frame in order to solve a problem.
Except, Manu, your example, your brown sphere is not moving to the center. It's staying attached to the white one.
Here. I say don't see the star, don't see the antenna. Okay, my brown sphere is here.
Yeah.
Right? It sees the white.
Okay.
It comes to the white. It's at 90
Okay.
degrees to the white.
Okay.
Right? But then the white is entangled with the red.
Yes.
So the two start going together. It turns.
There you
Slide
go.
like this, and it
That
closes.
makes sense. That's what we've learned. Yeah.
Yes. So the triangle that you see in the middle there, or between the center of these three, was created to frame a problem, to frame a relationship, in order to have a coherent relationship between these three. Now, this guy wants to move away, or this one wants to move away, because there's another lover, that is this bottle, pulling it away. This guy has to realize that there's a lover first, outside of their entanglement of a tree. So it starts pulling apart. It pulls first. It starts rotating this line of force. And I can't hold it completely. And it sees this guy here. It relates to him, minimum of 4. It's a rhombus. This minimum of 4 allows him to move out, to twist, to do a lot of things. Allow it in motion. Or
It's no
it can
longer
take,
stable.
yes, it's no more stable. You can say, look at that and say, I want this one first. And then he does this and things like that. Then you start having a lot of things happening. So it is fundamental of two, of a duality that we always see. We frame, that is, we make rigid, and then we turn that whole in relationship to another whole to move. That is a relationship. So Steve, you are you first, Steve, but you are Steve because of me, because the Ubuntu with me, because you are in relationship to me. Otherwise, you'll just be a vegetative. You won't be different from a log. The log that is lying on the soil in the field is actually in relationship to the field. They're exchanging. But consciously, you are Steve because of me.
I would say it a little differently, and I totally agree. I would say that when I'm in relationship with you, I see the parts of me that are in you that are reflected back to me.
Exactly.
All right. So,
yes.
And the more people I see, the more 90-degree relationships I create, the more of me I see.
Yes. And remember the diagram, the Venn diagram. Let me put this again.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to show you the diagram I just created.
Yeah.
This shows the 60 degrees. here's the 90-degree relationship. I wish I had this labeled. This is A, this is B. Here's the 90-degree relationship between A and B. Here's
Yes.
the 90-degree relationship between A and C.
Yes.
Then here's the 90-degree relationship between C and A. And they
Yes.
relate at 60 degrees.
Yes. They triangulate, they frame.
They triangulate.
They frame, they set.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm not trying to steal the show. I'm just showing you what I came up with there.
Okay. Let me reconcile another thing again. When we say relationship, some people just think that it's from one distinct thing to another. It can be represented in the form of a Venn. The Venn is this one. You see the green? That's one individual. That's Steve with
Okay,
his
hang on
aura.
a second. I'm going to take a picture of that. Hold it so it doesn't wave around.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Can you show it?
Yeah, I'm going to show it to you now. Okay, here it comes. There we go.
Steve, your magic, your magic.
It should be appearing on your screen any minute now. It's showing on mine.
Okay. Okay. So when you see the green is Steve in and all his attributes. Not only the physical Steve that I see there, but Steve in all your what I call aura field.
Sure.
Okay. In black is Anne with all her aura field.
Yes.
What you call relationship between Steve and Anne is that intersective area that is hatched. That is the relationship. So
Sure.
yeah. So
And this is
people
what you
should
call,
understand. Yes.
this is what you call a bubble.
Yes. That is
If
a
I-
Venn representation.
That's right. And if
Or-
me and Anne
or-
only talk, to each other, that's all we see.
Yes.
We create a bubble.
Yes. Or a
And
pattern.
Manu's out there and Richard's out there, but we're not relating to them. We don't let them in. But so we get trapped in a bubble, and that's what's happening in American politics today. In most politics, it's all bubble politics. Other people are not letting people in. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm through, Steve. I just
Oh, you're
wanted
through?
to compliment what you say with that.
Really good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if I can put a Venn diagram together with my little sticky thing over here.
Yeah.
And I could actually take this further because in my workshop I talk about who am I?
Yeah.
And what I've discovered is that I am what I think, I'm what I know, I'm what I say, I'm what I do, and I'm what I feel. So there are at least 5 parts of me. There are actually 7 parts of me if I
Yeah.
open up to all of me. So in
Yeah.
actual words, I myself am 5 to 7 bubbles myself. And the question is, do I relate to myself? Some people
Yeah.
are very mental and they're not emotional. So they don't present all of themselves to the world. Some people are very emotional and they're not very mental. And they're not presenting their mental to the world. And that gets very complicated, but this is cool. I hope you see that.
I'm actually a product of an experiment. I don't know how twisted how much it twisted me. In the late 60s, 1968, 69, they decided that they are going to experiment teaching mathematics, what they call modern mathematics, without algebra and without calculus, just mathematics. And they just taught us for years, for about 3 years, only the theory of sets.
That explains it.
Yes, we will just draw. We just come to the math class and draw. That's all we did. We never calculated anything to say 4 plus 3 is 7. I didn't do that for 2 or 3 years. And we just did that. After that, they abandoned the experiment. It was called modern mathematics as opposed to classical mathematics. So my class was, fortunately or unfortunately, you know, the one that was chosen for that experiment.
Cool. Are you complete?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Any other comments or questions or observations? Richard, you look very busy over there. You look like you're drawing like a mad fiend. And but I don't want to intrude on your process, my friend. If you want to share something, please do. And if you want to share, now's a good time.
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty interested in finding out the outcome of that. What you call the experiment, right? Yeah, where you drew. Like, if in comparison to what was that? Were there any results that came out of it? What's the purpose of it? And
It was abandoned, and
yeah,
it was
why?
abandoned. What you
Sounded
see in
pretty
me,
cool.
maybe you're going to find the experiment with me. It was abandoned. You know, after that, we joined the normal class where we study, you know, mathematics the way it was taught.
So
But that's why I
did
say I don't know. I don't know how much it twisted my mind. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you it twisted your mind in major ways, Manu. So if you're worried, if you're thinking it didn't twist your mind, you can forget that shit because it twisted your mind. And I'm grateful for your twisted mind. I love to hear your twisted mind all the time. You have the most topological brain I've seen on the planet Earth. You are so topological, and that's a miracle because I don't think you see a box. Do you even see a box? I think you do. I think you see boxes, but you also know it's not a box. It just looks like a box. Like the donut looks like a coffee cup some days, but it's still a freaking donut. Or it's
Yeah.
a coffee cup, or it's a coffee donut cup. I don't know, but whatever. Richard, how about you, sir? You're still on mute, so
Well, yeah, partly what I was doing is taking the triangle around a circle around a triangle and and trying to put that together in this in the Venn diagram way. And what's been a problem for me is that I think the Venn diagram, in terms of the overlap, um, it hides the interconnection. It hides the relationship, um, and uh, and so I'm now into the habit of basically doing what you did around the 90 degrees, but wanting to pull the spheres apart so then I can see visually see the line between that represents the interconnection or the interweaving. Um, and and because there's using what Manu described as, you know, yourself and Anne, then I also know that that line is not one way. It's reciprocal. There's the relationship between you and then the relationship between Anne and you, and it it then does exactly what is in the Venn diagram in that area. There's a whole bunch of things that are going on in the overlap. So it's just it's a different way of trying to explore uh, the uh, the element and the relationship, and I find um, the Venn diagram thing as a bit of a problem. But then when Manu and others explain that, oh, but just wait a minute now, though, uh, those two spheres, there's a midpoint center in each of them, and there's a line that connects them. Um, so then I can see the circle and I can see the line. Um, and I think that's a better way to what's the word I want? Advance the Venn diagram is to be able to put those center dots and the line between them so that you actually see the notion of the interconnection. So that's kind of what I was looking at, and yeah, this is to me very important in terms of being able to see both the what I'm calling the entity um, and the connection between entities. And then the other thing that's starting to come forward, going to Bucky's idea that I seem to be a verb. I'm all about process. Um, and then when I've looked at indigenous and non-indigenous, the non-indigenous seems to think that I'm only a noun, and my noun, has to sort of compete with your noun, and it might try and outwit you or defeat you, or but it's often looking to overpower you, to control you, to dominate you. Um, and the indigenous world is a process world or a verb world, and it's a more of a trust the process world. But that also means that you have to be more into consensus decision making as opposed to majority rule decision making. And that's what's going on in Canada right now. With our new prime minister and our government, I'm sure behind the scenes they're so pissed off with the way the southern neighbor is treating us that they want to fast track being able to be self-sufficient. In other words, remove some of what appears to be dependence. But it's a long-standing relationship between the two countries. So we want to fast track new projects and so forth. And the indigenous people want that to happen too, but they're saying, don't run over us. Don't go so fast. You slow down, think it through, um, and they want the process to sort of really work. But the white man, if you want, if I can use it that way, is saying we don't have time for that. We've got to put the motion on the table. We get a vote. As long as we get, 1 over the 50%, then we go ahead. And so they want to do the noun thing of get at it, let's go. And because of our relationship now with the United States, a lot of people are coming on board with that, of saying, yes, we got to get going right now. And some of the indigenous people are saying, no, yes, we got to do that. We want to do that. But slow it down, get it into the process, work it through. The world will still be here tomorrow kind of idea. Don't rush it. And that's going to cause a fight. We're going to get into a noun verb sort of competition, I think, in the next little while. And it could destroy the whole idea of working together. And the dominating force will end up with the same result that it had, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, when it just came and bulldozed over the native people and said that we've now discovered you. You don't think the way we do, so therefore we have the right to claim your land, and it's now ours. Anyway, that's part of the struggle of not seeing both the circle and the connection between. and the difference between noun thinking and verb thinking. But you have to have both. Noun and process need to work together to get that processional outcome that Bucky talks about in terms of pollination and that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm complete.
Well, I'm busting a gut because I want to continue sharing this. I'm going to, after our call last week, I think it was, I don't know if it was Wednesday or the weekend, but I sent a text to Joe. Joe had put a comment in the chat about forced language models and AI. And I wish he were here now to kind of talk about it. But when we got done, oh, it was Wednesday, and I said, it was like, well, I was talking about linguistics and I was talking about transformational grammar and the idea that we have nouns, we have verbs, we have objects. And that, and this goes back to your reference about a noun. And what I pointed out, I wish I had the whole stream here, but I just pointed out there are no nouns. There are only gerunds. If you know what a gerund is, it's a gerund that's in calculus. So it's the idea of I am a verb and I'm verbing. I'm loving, I'm compassioning, I'm thinking, I'm doing, I'm saying. If I'm not in my present participle of me, if I'm not in a gerund of me, I'm not, I'm just floating, I'm just a shell. I'm just a noun. I have to be a verb. And so then he said, well, what's about a predicate? And I said, there are no predicates because predicates involve a verb and an object. There are no objects in the universe. There are only gerunds doing calculus. There are only gerunds that are in present participle relationships with each other. I wish that I could explain the grammatical aspect of this, but I can explain this way. And I think it's worthwhile. In my workshop, and it's going to be in my book, Extreme Mindfulness, I talk about the parts of me. And so I bring up a big chart and I say, okay, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am.
I am.
And so I think must be a part of me. And so I put I think up on the board. And I go, how many of you think and know that your thinking is part of you? And everybody goes, yeah, I think. And yes, my thinking is a part of me. And then I go, well, what else is true about you? I don't know your thinking unless you tell me you're thinking.
Exact.
What else don't I know about you? What else are you gerunding? What else are you doing that I don't know about unless you tell me? And so we go around the room and I could play this game with you guys, but a lot of people say, well, I feel. I go, yeah, I don't know what you're feeling unless you tell me what you're feeling. What else is true about you? Well, I do things like I have my hand in my pocket. What am I doing with my hand in my pocket right now? Am I scratching a part of my anatomy, or am I reaching for my keys, or am I doing both? You don't know what I'm doing unless I tell you what I'm doing. It may look to you like I'm golfing, but I may not be golfing. I maybe just be stretching. I may be doing yoga, right? You don't know what I'm doing unless I tell you what I'm doing. So we go through it and find out that I think, therefore I am. I feel, therefore I am. I do, therefore I am. And then I ask people, are there times when you know things and you don't know why you know them, you just know they're true? I have a knowing. I have a knowing part of me. So I think, therefore I am. I feel, therefore I am. I do, therefore I am. I know, therefore I am. And how do I know all these things? Is because I'm willing to talk about it. I say,
Exact.
therefore I am. And there in the beginning is the word. Unless I talk about my feelings, I don't often know what I'm feeling. And I may think I know what I'm feeling, but as I talk about my feelings, my speech reveals to me what I'm actually feeling. I go, that's not exactly how I feel. It's more like this. So I end up with a diagram of 5 parts of me: knowing, thinking, feeling, doing, and saying. And that graph looks like this. I know, I think, I feel, I do, I say, and I've just got to bring up the right one here, and then I'll show you how complicated. There it is right there. In Native American spirituality, by the way, the I think is the East. It's the new idea. It's the birth, the dawning of the new day. In Native American spirituality, the I do is the South. It's learning by experience. It's family. It's mother. The North is the wisdom of the elders. The elders are whispering to us, and that's our knowing. The West is the I feel. It's the passion part of me. It's the cave. It's depression. And then the I speak is this little circle around here that makes the circle, because unless I'm talking about it, I don't know what it is. These are the 5 parts of me. Now, the problem is that I have a sphere that is me, and there's my essence. My essence is here, but I have these parts of me that I manifest in my relationships. I know, I think, I feel, I do, and I say, right? And I'm not as good. Some people are better at feeling than they are at thinking. Some people are better at thinking than they are in feeling. Some people are better in doing than they are at either thinking or feeling. And so what happens is that while I am this one sphere of reality, I'm actually these 5, there's actually 7 spheres, but in the simplest form, I teach it in 2D. In 2D, I can see 5 parts of me here. I think, I feel, I do, I know, and I say. So in a 3D model, I go into 7 parts of me. I dream, and I have DNA that also reveals a part of me, but in this thing. So now sometimes I have my north hemisphere here, my north node is more developed than other nodes. There are sometimes people who know a lot, but they don't do anything about it. And they don't feel passionate about it, and so on. So what happens here is many times people, when they develop, they look like this. And I actually have people draw this chart with knowing, feeling. I actually have them draw a circle. Then I say, okay, do a shape over the circle. This was a shape that somebody did in a class, this gray amoeba here. I call it the amoeba. And notice how this person is not really relating in 360 degrees to any one aspect of their being. They're overcommitted in some aspects of their being and undercommitted in other aspects of their being. So this amoeba, this gray thing, is actually me manifesting in my universe. And so when I go to Manu's Venn diagram, it isn't just a 360-degree me relating to a 360-degree you. It's my amoeba relating to your amoeba. It's my amoeba relating to your amoeba. I hope you guys are getting this. I've never put 2 of these amoebas together before, but I think I'm going to do it for the next time. Because sometimes people relate based on their feelings, and I'm going to have to twist this around. Sometimes people relate based on their doings. And everybody has a different amoeba. Everybody has a different way of relating to themselves. And my amoeba is the way I relate to myself, and then that's what I present to other people. I call these belief systems. And my goal is to make this, in this diagram, it's a solid circle in the middle. That should be a dotted line because it's what I say. And inside would be the essence of me. And what I want to do is create all these circles to be absolutely concentric so that I know what I feel, I know what I think, I know what I do, and I know what I say. I feel what I know, and I feel what I think, and I feel what I do, and I feel what I say. I think what I know, and I think what I feel, and I think what I do, and I think what I say. I do what I know, I do what I feel, I do what I think, and I do what I say. And when I
Wow.
do that, I create a synchronicity of myself to myself. And then I say, in consensual circles, I say what I do, which is very sacred, because I might share something that I do that you could use against me somehow. So, I don't want to tell you what I do when I go to a bar on Friday night, because then you think I'm a crazy guy. right? I don't go to bars. I don't drink, but I just thought I'd use that as an example. So when we relate in a Venn diagram, we're not relating sphere to sphere. We are relating amoeba to amoeba based on how we hold our relationship with ourselves. And this is why this group we're in right now tonight is so important, because we are sharing ourselves. Traditionally, we have shared ourselves deeply on topics that other people aren't willing to talk about. So we're developing our knowing, we're developing our thinking, we're developing our feeling, and we're developing those things by doing them and by talking about them. And what's so profound to me, the reason why I love this call, when I got on here, Kelly introduced the idea, tell me how you feel and tell me what you expect. So I get to get my thinking, my expectations, together with how I feel. I feel like crap, but I want to talk about this. Okay, good. I'm acknowledging at least two of my spheres of potential. You know, if we really were going to do it, we'd say, well, what do you know tonight? What do you feel tonight? What do you think tonight? What are you doing tonight? What are you willing to talk about? And then we could, if we bring up the 3D part of me, what am I dreaming about? And what's my DNA say I can or can't do? And then I use my epigenetic code to change my DNA. But that's a 3D model and it gets real complicated. And until I relate to the 5D or the 5-dimensional 2D model, this is a two-dimensional model of 5 dimensions of myself, each one of them being 3D spheres, then I can start to relate to each other. So anyway, you guys seem to be watching and listening. I'm very, very grateful. And I'll be happy to send these pictures to you guys. And I don't mean to, in fact, I have these whole presentations that I've done on this. Let me see, I'll get here and show you my pages. This is the 7 directions. When I get into a 3D model, I go into 7 directions, the 7th part of me. And this goes right back to Bucky's, this idea of murmuration, the idea of degrees of freedom, and I can share this other thing. Anyway, and here's a Native American medicine wheel. This is the 2-dimensional medicine wheel with all the stones around a medicine wheel and each of the animals that are represented in the sphere. In the middle is, I'll zoom in on this one so you can see it. But I was sitting here teaching psychotherapy, and I drew this circle on the board and started talking about knowing, thinking, feeling, and suddenly realized I was talking about a Native American medicine wheel. Because the Native American medicine wheel refers to the parts of me. And like, here's the eagle in the east. Here's the bear, the grizzly bear in the west. Here's the wolf family teaching in the south. Up here in the north is the white buffalo. On my medicine wheel, I have whale up there. Whale is my totem for north, for wisdom. And I really like whale because whales can say 5 words simultaneously. And of course, they go into the ocean as deep. We don't know how deep they go. They may go in the ocean as deep as anybody can go. So I like whale. Whale is a really good totem for me. But these are there's usually 3 stones in the center, the creator stone, the source stone, and the imagination stone. But this is a 2D model. So, and there are different animals around here, the tortoise, the frog, the thunderbird, the butterfly. And everybody has their own tokens on their own medicine wheel. But anyway, so I find that my philosophy of beingness, my 7 parts of me, and there are actually 12 parts of me, but that's okay because there are 12 degrees of freedom. But you got to start out someplace. You start out with a 2D model of 5 parts, then you go to a 3D model of 7 parts, then we go to a multiple dimensional model of 12 parts, but that's for another conversation, right? So anyway, okay, comments, and I'll be glad to send you guys this stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Richard, please.
Well, again, what happens for me is how we put these things together. So when you start off with 5,
Yeah.
then I immediately think of a pentagon, and I draw a pentagonal kind of figure, and then I apply the math to find
Yeah.
out how many interconnections there are between those 5, and I end up with 10.
Yeah.
And so when you present it with something in the middle, and
Yeah.
I've just been trying right now, it's much harder to try and get the 10 interconnections so that they're, if you want, visible.
Right.
And so it raises the question for me is what's the best way to sort of put forward this idea of the 5 parts, and whether it has to do with me in the center, um, and then my parts are like spokes out around me. Um, the other one is that when we put something in the center, and I go back to the tetrahedron, um, I can draw the tetrahedron in a way that puts something in the center, the way we talked about it with Manu's diagram. But then if I have the other diagram that he had with the vertical and the horizontal, like a diamond shape, and we say put something in the center, then I have to go inside it, and I put something in there. And so now I've got 5, and I have to figure out how that center, some people call it the soul, uh, how that center is interconnected in these 10 different or in these 10 ways with the other 4.
Well, I've got it resolved for you because it's not a pentagram, it's an octahedron. You ready? It's actually an octahedron. So here we go. I'm going to show you the octahedron of me. Here is meanness in the center. That's my soul. That's the 7th direction according to the Native American medicine wheel. And according to the Native American and to the Kabbalah and to the Norse, each human being is in an octahedron, and this square around this human being are the 4 directions. So there's 4 directions, which makes the square in the middle of the octahedron. Then there's the up direction and the down direction. And the 7th direction is the direction within. That's the soul. So the problem resolves when I move to octahedron. So there are the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. There's up and down make 6, and the 7th direction is the direction within. And there's the soul or the source. And when in the Native American medicine wheel, that stone in the center is the creator stone. And I can either take that as the great mystery, or I can take it as myself.
But if you look at most medicine wheels graphics, they will not look like that. They will look, from what I've seen, they will look like a perpendicular and a horizontal to give you your 4.
There you go.
Or they will look like the angles that are in your diagram. And so it looks like it's 4 pie shapes, if you want.
Right.
But the perpendicular that you now have in there is not there.
Well, it's the up and down direction in my total. I mean, it can be in anywhere, but there's the up and down.
I understand that.
Okay, good.
But the general depiction of a medicine wheel is either a 90-degree vertical and horizontal kind of square quadrant.
Exactly.
Or it's the angular one, which is sort of like a pie shape. And so you get the 4.
I got you.
But then if you put something in the middle, and then you show the up and down, then as you say, you count up to 7. But again, it's like, so if I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I use the formula, then it'll tell me how many of those interconnecting lines there should be, and then I might want to try and count them to make sure they're there.
Cool.
For example, like if I've got 7, that means there should be 6 lines coming out at every one of those points, including the middle one.
I
And
can't wait for you to experiment this and tell me what you come up with.
yeah,
And see if you get to an octahedron. And listen, there's no right way to hold this, right? It's just all of it is a metaphor of how I relate to myself. And so there's one square, but you're right, we can take that square and we can tilt it like this. And this is how most people relate. So there we go. There's the square. But see, that square is the square in the middle of the octahedron because the up direction is over here towards me, towards you and me when we're looking at this, and the down direction is on the opposite side. But there's the octahedron. That's the square part that can collapse and mush around because I'm a square until I realize I'm an octahedron.
Hello,
When I come
Steve.
out of, go ahead.
I've sent you a picture on WhatsApp. So I will be grateful if you could, after this, show it. So that I
Okay,
can make a comment on it.
I'll look for it. Go ahead.
Before Manu shares that, I just want to say that I think this is about the most complete I've seen people draw about us as human beings, right? Very often they draw it in 2D and it kind of gets stuck there. So just
Right.
now as you were talking, you're talking about 2D, which is 5 parts of you, 7 parts at 3D, and 12 parts at multidimensional. And again, they don't get there, you know. And I realized now going backwards is because we're having such a struggle with helping our other counterpart in another country, the people on the ground, to teach what we're doing because they cannot use they find it difficult to use the way our curriculum is written. And the other day when I had a meeting with my partners, I realized that the way most people are functioning in 2D, and they need the curriculum in 2D. But the way we've written it is multi-dimensional, and they couldn't handle the fact that it's multi-dimensional. So now we actually making the use of AI to help us pull it together in such a way where they can see the multi-dimensional in 2D. And it's happening. We now have a curriculum that's looking 2D when it's handling the human being, which is multi-dimensional. So as you're talking about it in your diagram, the last one that you showed us, that the octahedron, that's about the most complete, and it pulls together the generalized principle, right? There's no up and down, there's in and out, right? And people have such a tough time, like initially I did, on this whole idea of no up and down. But for me, it was quite, I picked it up after a couple of meetings, because when you're standing on in Australia, where is your up, right? It's certainly different from when we are standing even in Malaysia. The up is kind of sideways, and so on. So the drawing, your diagram actually takes that into consideration, and it feels a lot way more complete than most that I've seen. And I can even link it to my school and the students and who we all are. And I think I may need to share with people what you're saying. In order for the change in education to happen, is people need to understand fundamentally who we are as human beings, and that's not taken into consideration when curriculums are written. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'd be thrilled because if I take my diagram here of the guy
Murmuration.
in the center with the 4 directions on the outside and the up and the down,
Mm.
or the in and the out, if I put that together with other birds, this explains bird murmuration to a T.
Yep.
If I showed you a picture right now of birds flying around like this,
Yep.
this is exactly what's going on with the birds. Is they're using this relationship with each other and they're following each other around in bird murmuration. So
Beautiful.
yeah. on and yeah.
Sorry, back to Manu's side.
Yeah, well, I was teaching this for 20 years, and so I've thought deeply about it. I don't know that it's right, but I know that it applies in ways to stretch people's brains about themselves. It's only a metaphor. So, Richard, who's next? Anna's happy to have Manu's busy over there getting ready to share.
Manu
No,
said
ready.
something.
I'm just waiting.
Okay, good. Anne, are you complete then?
Yes, I.
Okay,
Sorry.
good. Richard, are you complete?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Manu, go for it.
Okay, just first show what I sent you.
Oh, that's right. I was working on that. Thank you very much.
Okay. But before that, I can make a comment on what another way of talking about what Steve talks about. When you read people like Napoleon Hill or like others, they talk about the conscious, the subconscious, and the hyperconscious. And they talk about the hunch, which is the strike of the hyperconscious. So, one way of saying this using mathematical terms is that the conscious is the tetrahedron. The subconscious is the octahedron. You don't see. The cube octahedron is the tantalizingly hyperconscious. It strikes. It comes and it goes. Vector equilibrium appears and disappears. It's there. There's a hunch. And to be creative, to design the way Berkey talks about is to reside on the edge of the icosahedron. You are conscious and you are ready for the strike. Most people, when the hunch comes or when the strikes arrive, they're not conscious. They dream, it passes, they're just there. They never seize the window of opportunity. But through education, and what Anne is doing, education meaning helping to draw out of you the potential that you have. You can reside at the most expanded frontier. That is the conscious frontier, stable. That is the icosahedron. And we know that the vector equilibrium collapses into the icosahedron, right? That's the first. It doesn't jump. It never jumps from the vector equilibrium to the tetrahedron. It goes in stages. It reaches those fractals that Steve talks about. And the first fractal that it will reach will be the icosahedron. Figuratively, if you are there, you see it. You are ready. You are educated. You are wise. You can see the hunch. You can see actually the future in comparison to people who are just in darkness. So that's the first comment that I talk about. The second one is this diagram that I have here. Coming into the Venn diagram, you see the orange dot and the green dot, right? You see dashes radiating around them. That is their aura fields. It's natural. Every happening, every object, everything that exists, whether organic or inorganic, but we see, really, we know that everything is organic. Because even if it appears inorganic, it's not there. It's just the face. So they have their aura field. You can see the aura field of the orange and the aura field of a green. Those aura fields overlap in a certain zone. That zone is surrounded, we call it intersection. It is in, I call it red here. Now, if you take those two centers of the green and the orange, and you run a segment through them, that segment is like the line that Steve showed that link the two. That line has in between what you call a point of equilibrium. It depends on the, say, the mass of one in comparison to the other, but it's always in between. That point is what you call the center of gravity of those two objects. Note that from the center of each of the two spheres flows centripetally. You know what centripetal means? Two words. Centripetally force, a gravity force towards that center. It's called the center of gravity of it. Now you see the mesh between the aura field. That mesh has a boundary in between that I've surrounded in red. If you see that mesh, note first that the line of gravity has an intersection with that zone that are called 1 and 2. If you see point 1 and 2. Now, you realize that that mesh in between, because the lines of aura are circular motions of whatever particle or whatever that you have, you realize that all those lines are running outwards towards that boundary that we talk about. Do you see that? So if they are running outward towards that boundary, they are radiant, isn't it? In regard to the center of gravity and the center of that zone of overlap. That is radiation. But more on that radiation is that you have a south and a north of it, which are points that are actually on the out of a set between the two in there. On one of those points, everything goes in. On the other one, it goes out. Call the one that goes out north and the one that comes in south. It does this. It's a double torus. Now you have your magnetic field. And point N, S, I call them 3 and 4. The 4 points now form a tetrahedron. All of a sudden, you have the appearance of a third. He has triangulated and he has closed. Tetrahedron or structure or pattern is always local. It's always local, meaning that it's always delineated by a boundary. Always local. Those were my point. It was just to put on the 2D for explanation of somebody who's not going to go into the calculus or whatever to understand things. These notions of structuring, of field, of local, of magnetism, and gravity. That was my point. I don't know. I'm open to comments.
Cool. Let's, anybody have any comments on what Manu just said?
I do.
Go ahead, Lee. You got to unmute.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you bring that design up again,
Yeah.
please? I do genealogy, and I go to a special building here in Salt Lake that is our genealogy headquarters. And on the wall for many years was this design, but the orange was our family. Okay? That goes out to maybe grandpa and grandma. And if great grandma is still alive, she's included in the orange. But when they died, our family continues in the green. And there is a center as it shows in that. And it flows out to eternity. Forever, our family continues. And what is in the center, because it overlaps, as you say, Manu, it overlaps in, I see pink, you said red, the pink area or the red area. And what the red area is the gravity, but it also can be called God, Buddha, the thing that draws us all together. For you, it's gravity. For me, it is my Father in heaven, whom I love and I am very grateful for. And it's showing me exactly what you're talking about, Manu, in this diagram. And he is bringing that together so it doesn't fall apart. Thank you.
Cool.
Has
Okay.
anybody noticed that this is a plan of our geometry?
Exactly.
You see the nose and the two eyes?
Mhm.
Okay.
It's the phi. Okay. So it's about time to go. So we're ready for takeaways. Richard, you've been quiet the longest since I've heard. How are you feeling and what are your takeaways tonight? And then feel free to pass it on when you're ready.
Not sure what I feel right now. It's I value this kind of dialogue, but we skipped the readings tonight, and
That is education, Richard.
with that,
That's education. We drew from ourselves, isn't it?
yeah, and this is interesting for me too because of things that I've been relating to, and one being that if we talk about education, if you want the acquisition of knowledge, and to appreciate that what I know is also connected to an awful lot of what I don't know. So the two have to be kind of together, and I have to have space for new knowledge to sort of come into my vision and to my presence. But what I'm getting at now is this whole issue of, okay, how do we communicate? How do we process this knowledge so that somebody else gains their knowledge? And that's where now I'm coming back into, it's not done by teaching in the traditional sense of teaching of you have an empty glass and I'm going to fill it up with information that you need to know. But it's really done through facilitation. It's in many ways that's the best teacher. And I really, whether it's being articulated or not, it it's what I think Anne and her approach to education is what's happening. There's a facilitation process that's going on that is not what you see in the traditional approach. And I think that's what's so important. And I relate it to my own work in reading the feedback from people who have been through one of these 2-day workshops that's been going on now for over 40 years. And a lot of the same feedback is coming today, equivalent to what was coming 40 years ago. And when I look at it, I realize that I think in our effort to say to the trainers, you're not there to educate, you're not there to inform or tell people, you're there to facilitate their own knowledge coming forward and being used either to be more aware within themselves or of themselves, or more sensitive to others who might benefit from whatever their knowledge and skill is. And so I really think the good feedback is coming because they've experienced what we now would call facilitation. They didn't experience a teacher. So that this is, and as you said, this is what we've done this evening, which I really value, and that is that we facilitated amongst ourselves in such a way that we weren't teaching each other. We were facilitating well, basically the surfacing of what we know, and just the way that Steve, you were talking about in terms of the doing and the feeling and the thinking is a kind of a spoke-like expression of what we're really doing. And if I don't say it in some way, then you don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah, you don't know what I'm doing, and that's so important. And there was one other thing. I just read a feedback that came to one of the people that does the facilitation in these 2-day workshops, and they're always talking about how important it is to be able to read your audience, and you just don't go in and teach from the manual. You have to relate with people. And anyway, somebody gave this one trainer feedback and said, you listen with your eyes. And that was really profound for me to think about. Somebody can see what your eyes are doing that tells you whether or not they're really listening or they're not, or whether they are really hearing you in the way in which you want to be heard. And I just thought it was such a beautiful phrase that you listen with your eyes. You see the visible me, but you also are seeing that invisible me, that part of me who I really am. Yeah. So thank you for that dialogue that we've had today without reading. Anne, how are you feeling? What's your takeaway today?
Okay, see, Richard, you're all the way to the other side of the world, and there are quite a few things that you said. It's like you seem to know what's going on in my school without in whatever we're doing without being here. So that is amazing. I'm gonna share with you this. You mentioned experience, right? Okay, the learning. It's an experience, okay? So a lot of people talk about experiential learning, and I think that's kind of overused, yeah? Because when you talk about experience, it has to be real experience, not one that is kind of made up for you to experience, or, like sometimes it's somebody comes up with an activity, and through doing the activity, you experience the whatever the outcomes it is that we're supposed to take away. All right, or we take away our own takeaways. However, what we felt was to make education make sense, you really have to experience the real thing, right? So when we went down the path of creating our kindergarten, we're anchoring everything around experiences for the children, right? So if you want to do numbers, you teach them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get them to hop around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to do a performance that's real counting, or you like we do a yogurt tea party where they actually have a cup of yogurt and the toppings with the number of toppings to put on top of it, and they can decorate it, and then they consume the yogurt, right? A cup of yogurt that they created. So everything like drama is an experience. We have got our the themes that people create in kindergartens, like okay, today we're doing the body, and the next day we're doing something else, right? They've anchored it as an experiences as well. So if you're doing the body parts, we're actually looking at the skeleton, and we're actually playing around with the actual body itself, and nobody holds back on the language. So, but my point is, we went down that path. So I'm just saying that, the English classes we have is also you experience English. So rather than read from the book, we pull out things from the book and get the kids, like, if you're doing hide and seek, the book is like, can you see? The title is for little children. We are doing it for the older kids as well, because in Asia, if they're from another country, even the age of 7, they cannot read basic English yet, right? So when they come here, we're using the same material to anchor. So instead of just talking about, can you see me? Can you see the dog? Can you see mommy? So we explore the whole idea of hide and seek. So when in the world do you hide, do you seek? And one of my people said, what about magic tricks, right? And I said, yeah, exactly, right? Then we went into looking at camouflage, the real world, right? Why do you even want to camouflage? So we look at nature, we look at so at the age of when they're young, we're already anchoring that as an experience. So when you brought that up, I was like, wow, this is exactly what we've been driving. Right now, like we have got fashion. Like for just fashion alone, we're anchoring it with a collaboration with this big, huge company from Shein in China, and so on. So kids can design, and then that whatever they design can actually go out into market and things like that. And then we're looking at jams itself. Taking our students to a jam museum in Singapore, then they learn about jams, and then they come back to KL, and they're designing a course to design jams. So it becomes real. It's not something that is external to the real experience is not external to the education, right? So when you mentioned that, I was like, wow. But primarily, I want to thank every single one of you here, because you've just given me, like, I can write what we do into like one whole sentence. So because we've been working on whatever we've been doing is transformational, and so many people have been using those words about what we are doing with the children. So we are actually doing transformational education, but that can only happen through multidimensional learning. Okay, so this is something that I'm going to have to anchor for the educators and people out there to understand, because we were like, how do you put it into a sentence what we do, right? And the outcome is a quantum DNA, which is a 4D assessment system we're working on. Okay, when we pull this together, I know just talking, I'm saying it out loud because we started this, but we have never been able to verbalize it in a manner that that I can take it and talk to maybe the people in education. All right, because it's just a bit too out there for most. But now I look at it, I can actually turn it into the minute we can turn it into assessment. 4D, then that multidimensional learning can take place in, like, it's already happening. That's how kids learn, but educators don't seem to get it, and the people in position to make those decisions don't seem to get it. But I think if we go down this path, it will make a whole lot more sense. You know, this listening with your eyes, Richard, when you shared that, it brought to mind when my daughter one day, when she said it, we were all like, whoa, we liked it, but it was really cute, right? She was feeling with her fingers like this, and she says, this sounds soapy. You know, this sounds soapy. And because she's very auditory, so like we say, like for those of us who are kinesthetic, we say, I feel, right? I feel this feels weird. Right? You use the textual kind of language, right? And then if you are visual, you say I see. It looks weird, yeah. So if, and then the other one, it sounds weird, yeah, for people who are auditory. So this sounds soapy. So perfect with to end this with, listen with your eyes. Love it. Thank you. So Manu, how do you feel, and what is your takeaway today?
I feel good.
Mm.
I'm grateful to have had some, exchanges that are very, very profitable to me, and I hope profitable to everybody here. When I say profitable, is that we increase. All right. Now, the biggest takeaway that I have is that, one, we've got to position ourselves, to prime ourselves for lifelong education. So we got to find ways to help or turn around, especially the younger ones, into believing in lifelong education. That is, in lifelong definition, enlargement of and diversification of their ability to pull out what got into them in a way, in a precisive way, in a way that is amplified, to help and to design. Know that helping is giving. I'm talking about giving in general sense. The second thing about education is that it's a whole. Steve talked about 5 senses, but we know that there are 6 at minimum. The touch, the sight, the taste, the feel, the auditory, and then there's proprioception. That is the sense of orientation in space, knowing where you are, basically, and with who you are. That's the 6. Now, the ability to be wise, the ability to be educated, which I equate, the ability to be, I use another word here, I've forgotten, is to learn to use those senses as a whole. There are 6 edges, there are relationships, there are 6 edges of a tetrahedron. And their whole energy. A tetrahedron is unit account of energy. And a tetrahedron has a direction, a structure. So it is, through our words or whatever that we say, it is directed towards something. Education is about learning to use those as a whole in order to take a quantity of energy that exists already and convey it in a way that is efficient, that knowing where it's going and the quantity that you need. So if it's a lot of information, it has to be in the icosahedron, expanded. If it is focused, it has to be a tetrahedral information. Again, the carrier, the first carrier of this is your word. And it joined with what Steve was explaining to us, being a specialist of languages, about the word. What does the word mean? So those are my two takeaways. Otherwise, I took a lot from what everybody said. I mean, it was really rich today. That's one of the sessions where I come out happy and with a lot of matter to ponder. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm thankful. Lee, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Unmute yourself.
I feel wonderful. I believe that what I missed last week was talked about today. If I saw all the pictures that was shown earlier, had to have been from last week. And I have learned so much. This brings me back to the Native American way of teaching, and that is telling stories of what they have learned in the past. The stories makes, and even Jesus, if you have studied Jesus's teachings, they have been stories, not direct talking to individuals. They were then stories. And I think that's the best way of teaching and being an example for all that see you and finds you every day. Now, Steve, I gather you is the last. So what is your feeling and what is your takeaway?
Thank you. Gee, this has been really fun. You may want to mute your phone. This has been really fun for me. It's been an honor actually to share my 5 parts of me, actually my 7 parts of me. I didn't get into the 12 parts of me, but I got to share the 5 parts foundation and allude to the 7 parts when I move into a 3D octahedron. If I take that square that I put over the medicine wheel that Richard talked about, and if I turn it sideways, that becomes the base of the octahedron. And if I go up from there, there's the point in the octahedron. If I go out from there, and if I go in from there, I get the other point of the octahedron. So that becomes the 3D model. It was an honor to really share this and test it with you. I haven't talked about it for probably at least 8 years because I've been working on my book. I'm trying to stick to basic stuff. I was real excited when Richard started the conversation tonight with this idea. Words are so critically important, and the idea of going from reconciliation, which so much sounds like a compromise, right? We reconcile, we compromise, to moving to reciprocity. Wow, that's powerful. The idea of moving from truth. Everybody is hot about truth, but everyone has a perspective on the truth. And when I move from truth to perspective, I go into a mutual respect mode because now nobody has to win. Everybody has their paradigm, everybody has their perspective, and I get to reciprocate. I get to honor them and they get to honor me or not, right? But reciprocity becomes a critical. I just love that. And I love the idea of teaching versus facilitation or mentorship or coaching or something. In other words, you, like Ann said, you throw some words out there and instead of teaching out of the book, then you let the kids have their experience of the words. And how she's doing this in her thing boggles my mind. I still am blown away about this whole concept of fractals from the figure that I showed you, where if you take that irregular triangle or a regular triangle, or if you take a and you dissect it, you have four of the same triangle you started with. That explains fractal. And I'm grateful that Manu reminded me that the vector equilibrium, the cube octahedron, in the jitterbug actually moves through, fractalates through those shapes. So it goes from the cube octahedron into the icosahedron. And then gradually goes through to the octahedron and then goes into a tetrahedron, a four-bonded tetrahedron. That whole concept of that's fractalation. Thank you, Mano, for reminding me about the jitterbug and how the icosahedron is a fractal. That blows my freaking mind. Okay, so oh, and I want to on Lee's comment about gravity and how family is there and how love is there. I go back to the movie Interstellar, where from a physics point of view, that movie argues that gravity is love, that love is gravity, that attraction between node A and node B is love. And I want to resist it maybe because I think differently or I feel differently or I do different things. But the reason why we're here is because of love. And sometimes there's a part of me who wants to forget about that. I'm real grateful that we're here. I'm real grateful for gravity, or I like the idea of calling it love. I'm really grateful for page 165, figure 10-1, with that ever-loving piece of tetrahedral cheese and the triangle and the square and the invitation to look at how when I cut up that irregular square, it just fragments like in a hadron collider, just creates nonsense, irrational nonsense, where I take that triangle, any shape, and I divide it, it becomes fractals of itself. Woo, blows my mind. Okay, you guys, this has been really, really cool and an honor to share. And I'm gonna probably, I mean, I don't know. Are you guys interested? Do you want me to share my slides with you tonight? Because I can do
Yeah.
it two different ways. Do you want me to? Okay, then I will put them all in an email and send them to you. I usually put them in the invitation as well, but a lot of people don't know how to go to the calendar invitation and pull them out. So I will send them to you individually as a group. So if you don't get them, let me know, and I will. They'll go out by tomorrow. Maybe they'll go out tonight. I may send them out tonight so I don't have to think about it.
Thank
You're
you.
my-
May I say something, Steve?
Yeah, I'm complete.
I think I was thinking about it yesterday. When I just thought about it because I wanted you to send me again all the links of all the recordings that you have. But it came to me that we abandoned our library that we started. You remember all the calls of those years? We had them on, what is this application?
YouTube.
No, it wasn't on YouTube. We put YouTube on an application. That the guy was in China, was a custodian and
Fred?
no, not
Fred?
what was the name of the guy in China? Our
It
guy
was Fred.
Fred, yes. Fred and
Was it on Slack?
Slack. Yes, it was Slack and something.
I hate
something like that.
Slack. I've
Whatever.
never figured out how to use it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I think that as our legacy, 15 years of recording or 18 years of recording is worth something. There have been people coming in and going out. But this material for work that can be put on the site or on somewhere to
They're all on
allow.
YouTube. They're all on YouTube and they're on a channel. So I can send you a sheet of every YouTube link that I've
Okay.
done over the
So-
last 3 years.
Yes, but there were a lot done before, and that's like.
Nobody shared that
Can
with
we have
me.
that?
Nobody.
It is.
Nope.
It is with Kelly.
Well, good. Then check with Kelly and see if we can revive it.
Yeah.
I tried
Our-
using
our-
Slack and I hated Slack.
Yeah, but we can at least take out all the material that we have there. I think that I still have the keys to get onto Slack. I think I'll check again. But it will be fantastic that all of those discussions, because people will see how we have evolved. What we talk today is not what we were talking about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And the approach, and we have been approaching basically about the same materials for the past 15 years, but talking about them differently, going more in depth, disproving some of the things that we said that we thought were correct. And that's the process. That is the
Cool.
process of building universe. Okay.
I'll send you the sheets. I have 2 sheets. I have 2 files. One is our Wednesday meeting. One is our Saturday meeting.
Yeah,
I'll send you those for the last 3 years.
I'm sorry you sent me some time ago, but I have so
It's
many
okay.
things. Okay.
Okay,
And
I have messages for Lee, and Manu and Steve in the chat. Yeah.
okay.
I'm not sure if you see it. Yeah. Because I
Thanks for
spoke a lot
pointing that
about.
out.
Yes. Thank you so
What
much.
did you say? Did you? Yeah.
I got a message from Manu, Lee, and Steve in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. I feel
Lee.
very flattered by what you guys tell me. I don't think that is true. I think that I'm in that stage when we are together. I don't know if in a different setup I will be the same. I think this, when I get in here, Providence opened some channels of communication between us.
Cool.
Thank you, Anne.
Great. And this link to this call will help put all those graphics I did together. So I'll send you the graphics, but the narration is going to be helpful. So I'll load this in tonight. So there's a YouTube link and I'll load all the files together so then you can see the pictures and do whatever you want with it.
Please, is useful.
Yeah.
It's really useful.
And I could get serious about it and actually do a presentation on the whole thing, but right now I'm working on other stuff. So see what you can do. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
God bless.
I have gravity for all of you. Oh, wait a minute. I have love for all of you.
Yes.
Just call G-Love. G-Love.
Bye-bye, all.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.